Bachman's Basement is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
Welcome back to Bachman's Basement. This week we'll be discussing The Body as well as its counter film, Stand By Me. Rob Reiner didn't just tell stories about growing up. He understood the exact moment when growing up stops being an idea and becomes a fact. Stand By Me, or The Body if you prefer the name it was born with, it isn't really about a dead kid in the woods. That's just the reason 4 boys are allowed to walk away from home for a while. What it's really about is the first time you realize the world doesn't owe you a goddamn thing, and you can choose your own path. It's about friendship before it turns into memory. It's about bravery before you know the cost. It's about standing at the edge of something terrible and realizing you're not ready, but you're going to go balls deep anyways. Reiner never flinches from The Body. He doesn't sensationalize it. He doesn't push past it, because the horror isn't what they find at the end of the tracks. The horror is that once they see it, they can't go back to what they were before. And that's the quiet cruelty of growing up. Nothing is taken from you all at once. It just stops belonging to you in the same way. No monsters, no curse, just knowledge. By the time Gordy tells us he never had friends like the ones he had when he was 12, the damage is already done. In the words of Cormac McCarthy, you never know what worse luck your bad luck has saved you from. So tonight in the basement, we're not talking about nostalgia. We're talking about the moment innocence realizes it has an expiration date. We're talking about The Body and what it takes from you just for taking a look. But before we get into that, let me introduce my co-host, Chris Clawson. How are you doing this week, brother?
As always, doing very well. And this week's story, I'm really excited to talk about. I really enjoyed listening and watching. But before we get on with that, obviously, the week has been an interesting one. My wife and daughter went out of town for a anime convention, so it was just my son and I at the house for this last 5 or 6 days. So kind of had a bachelor week, which was fun. Just went to the movies with him and my father-in-law, saw the new Avatar, hung out, and made curry. Or Xander, I should say, made curry. Again, we tried a spicier version of that, and that turned out really well. And yeah, I'm still working on that Avatar game. I'm kind of stuck at a certain point in the story. It's a little bit frustrating. I set the difficulty level up maybe, so it's not that I can't beat it, but it's like I'm going to have to be a little bit more patient with this particular moment in the game. So I just have to be a little more stealthy and kind of take my time.
Did you give up on finding the perfect mushroom?
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't give up on it, but what I realized was when I looked at my skill tree and upgrading, that if I just wait, because it's not like the missions disappear, they're just all stack up as you get them, and then you can just choose which one you're working on. So I just decided to progress the main story more. Now I have a Ikron, the pterodactyl that you can fly around. So that's cool. That gives me a lot more kind of latitude to go where I need to go on the map. To find that stuff. And then as I upgrade, I guess it's I forget what they call it, but the branch of the upgrade for searching, there's one that will allow me to see. I think I mentioned this last week, but yeah, just allow me to see the higher quality fruit or fungus that I'm looking for.
Yeah. So Yeah, you kind of did mention that there's like obviously paths that'll take you particular ways. Because I asked that same question. I was like, it's so annoying in Fable. It's like it wants you to kind of come back later on. It's like here's this side quest, but really you're not gonna.
It's not that it's not doable, but I just realized after spending like 2 hours running around in a swamp and I found one of the fruits, but it wasn't the right quality, that I was like, you know what? This is ridiculous that I'm spending all this time and not going anywhere. I mean, I'm seeing the map, I guess, but that's cool, and discovering all sorts of plants. But anyway, so like I decided, you know what? I'm going to put this on the back burner.
So you and the son. So boys week all week. You didn't play Daggerheart, I'm assuming. So
no, had a.
What else did you guys get into besides that on your normal days off?
So really just kind of, hung out, did some cleaning, some laundry, and then Xander, of course, he's really been into skateboarding, so just watching him do that and work on his progress on that a little bit. And we probably ate out more times than we normally would, since we're only eating for 2 instead of 4. It's a little bit more affordable. And so it was fun.
So so let's see what I did. Watch Law and Order. Still watching Law and Order. I'm at season 11. So we've been chipping away. Been on this thing for a while. I'm on a journey. There is still like another 20 seasons of this thing.
Oh my god.
Benjamin Bratt is no longer on the show.
He is aged out.
We've got. I went through Christopher Noth and several other detectives. Now we're still here with Detective Lenny Bruce, and who's hilarious. He's my favorite. I know that he is going to be leaving the show in the next few seasons because he actually passes away in real life in 2004, and that's going to be sad because he's by far my favorite character on the old Law and Order. But that's been as far as TV goes. That tonight we cooking wise, I for Christmas we got one of those Omaha steak boxes.
Yeah.
So we had some bacon wrapped filet mignons. I did that, and for the first time ever, I went with a method that they had on actually on Omaha's website, where you can air fry it. Okay. This sounds criminal, but we'll give it a shot. And it turned out really, really well.
Yeah.
Surprising.
Heck yeah. I mean, we do a lot of air frying. I mean, we've air fried a lot of meat at my house too. So I'm thinking about exactly what you had there. And I'm like, that would turn out great inside of an air fryer.
Yeah. So, I thaw it out and get ready and everything. And then it started to rain. And grilling in the rain is not impossible, not the most fun thing in the world. And normally what I would do at that point would be turn to the old cast iron skillet and finish this bad boy up in the oven. But the bake element on my oven is still out at the moment, which in turn means no real oven. So go over to Omaha's website, clicking around, and they're like, hey, try this out because it'll make the outside all nice and seared, and you'll get that effect, but it also cook around circularly, and it'll make it right. They have this little video, follow the video. And anyways, that thing how great.
Crispy. I like how crispy things come out from the air fryer.
So it kind of got you. Didn't really get the full reverse here I would have gotten out of cast iron skillet, but it did do a great job. And so it had that, and we've had God, it's been like a meat circus over here because of the box. So I've had burgers and hot dogs and chicken. It's one of those ones is all encompassing. So
heck yeah, that's
awesome. That kind of stuff.
That's great.
Video game wise, I beat Fable. So anyone who's following me on Instagram, you guys got to see that. Got to see me absolutely demolish the ending of that and see how yoked my guy was by the end of that game. Finished that, and I started Fable 2. Just went right into it. So nice. Now playing through Fable 2, I am not very far into that. After finishing Fable 1, I played for a couple hours, and then I got kind of sidetracked and played some guitar. For movies I watched, I did this week. I Happy New Year's once again, everyone out there. But I watched New Year's Evil, which is a 1980s slasher. You ever seen New Year's Evil, Chris?
I haven't. I did see you shared in our group chat, the one we have with everyone, and that it was intriguing. Now I've never seen it, so I need to watch that. I like B horror, 80s B horror.
Yeah. So the plot it kind of follows like Los Angeles punk rock and new wave show host who's getting calls during a televised New Year's Eve bash from a killer warning him of impending murders that he plans to the exact to take course over the night of New Year's, right as New Year's happens in each time zone. So you're starting in LA, but like when news hits on the East Coast, something's going to happen. When it hits, was Mountain Time, and then you got obviously Pacific Time. There's murders throughout it. Had a budget of $500,000, so you can know what you're going to get out of it for that. Let's see. I had a couple more notes. Oh, Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 1.5 and wrote, "New Year's Evil is an endangered species, a plain old-fashioned gory thriller. It is not very good. It is sometimes unpleasantly bloody. The plot is dumb, and the twist at the end has been borrowed by hundreds, if not thousands, of other movies. But as thrillers go these days, New Year's Evil is a throwback to an older, simpler tradition, one that flourished back to the dimly remembered past." His counterpart, Gene Siskel, gave the film 0 stars, calling it a hideously ugly motion picture. So, for you horror fans out there, that kind of means, hey man, that's probably pretty good.
Yeah,
which is how I felt about the film itself.
well, you know what you're getting into when you're watching a B horror movie. You know the acting's not going to be great. The writing's probably not going to. It's going to be a little cliche. Or a lot cliche, and I mean the effects and everything, the production value is not going to be too good either. But it's the sum of those parts sometimes just makes for great campy fun. So
yeah, I think my favorite, my go-to is, when did the movie come out? It came out between like the 1980 and 95. What's the budget on it, right? What's the budget on it? And if I do a quick search, how many Reddit posts are they about it? And if you see several Reddit posts and that budget's under like $2 million, you're probably in for a fun time. Which it was. And I happened to have that one on Blu-ray. That was the photo you guys got. It's a copy of the Blu-ray. I was like, I'm locking in.
Yeah.
Which is where we went. So the way we're going to do today's episode is similar to what we've done in the past. We've talked about both a book and a film. This film is very well loved. As if you have listened to our episode, our top 10s, this one was pretty high on my list. But the book itself is also really great. So we have separated this out similar to what we've done with things in the past, like The Monkey or 1408 or The Running Man. We're going to do something kind of similar here. And today we're going to start with the book. Stephen King's The Body is kind of framed more as a memory, not nostalgia, but kind of, I don't know, recollection with scar tissue attached to it.
Right. Yeah. Gordy as an adult man in his 40s, recalling the summer when he was 12. Yeah.
Right. And Gordy, throughout the book, as we'll talk about in the film itself, his friends tell him that he should be a writer. He's kind of known for telling these big stories and creating these creative endings, and very much those parts are very Stephen King within themselves of how funny they are. One in the movie is kind of showed and described kind of perfectly, and they even kind of take a shot at Stephen King even kind of takes a shot at himself in both the book and then you'll see it again in the movie, where it's like, that's the ending. Some of his stories, his friends are like, that's the ending, which is pretty great.
Yeah, I feel like the ending of this, without even talking about the ending, but just the ending of the book and the movie being pretty similar, but that it's exactly kind of what you want though out of a story like this. So
right, it is. I'm talking about within the book. So some of the stories that Gordy tells, there's both in the book and the movie. he gets to the
Yes.
ending of his story, Gordy telling the story, and they're like, "That's the ending."
Right, exactly. That's very much a nod, Stephen King nodding to the fact of us fans going, well, he's a great writer, but sometimes he doesn't stick the landing, you know.
Which I thought was I love when anyone can kind of poke fun at their own selves. So Gordy LaChance he's an adult writer who's kind of looking back at the summer when he was 12, when he and his friends, Chris Chambers, Teddy Duchamp, and Vern Tesso decide to walk the railroad tracks to find the body of a missing boy, someone missing from their town. King never lets the story kind of sit in that moment. The novella is constantly interrupted by the future, which is a little different than the movie. The movie kind of stays right with their journey for the most part. Whereas in the book, you do get kind of some bouncing back. You get to hear more about Chris growing up and trying to outrun his reputation of being a certain type of kid, only to get stabbed to death in his later years. So he kind of addressed some of this stuff going through the book, where we don't really get any of that until kind of the dead end of the movie, which I think was a better way to handle it.
I thought, I mean, obviously this movie's a classic, but yeah, the fact that the movie opens with an adult Gordy and closes with an adult Gordy finishing his story as a writer, you know, as an adult.
It very much has like and we'll get into some more detailed, obviously, like differences between the two, but it definitely has the Sandlot feel between like the way the movie handles it, which I'm sure Sandlot probably took some liberties of, hey, that's how it's done. Let's write a kids movie.
Again, it's classic Americana. You know, Stephen King. This was his time as a kid, was the 1950s. So that's what, you know, he knows best. And it comes through very, very clearly what it was like to be a kid in that time. Xander and I watched this one together, and I just noted how Xander reacted to it. And being that that's like a similar age group of kids, and how much the world is different now in reality compared to the 1950s, but how much is the same to be a kid, and just the way that kids kind of interact with each other, especially boys. That, yeah, he loved the movie. He thought it was great. So.
Yeah. We continue on with some of our other characters, and you get kind of the details of each character, and they're not always the best. And I think this is like why I've kind of always liked the movie a little more. I think the book is great, but it is a much sadder affair to read through to some extent. But Teddy never escapes his father's abuse and some of his own instabilities. And Teddy is a character whose father was in the military and kind of known as a little bit of a kook. It turns out that he kind of doesn't ever escape the mental wear that took on him during this time period. Vern, on the other hand, he kind of just fades into adulthood and lives out a normal life. And then Gordy kind of survives, but at the cost of carrying everyone else with him. So he has all these memories from he's 12, and they're not really friends anymore. And some of the things that they go throughout the story definitely has affected him as a writer, as an adult. And that the entire book is kind of just based between those two worlds, between the world that Gordy's living in now and the time of what he considers the best summer of his life, with some of the best friends he'd ever have at the age of 12.
Yeah. That I mean, obviously this isn't the only Stephen King story that has a group of young people in the 1950s. You know, immediately my mind goes to it, or, you know, there are other stories, you know, that's certainly it's just a coming of age story. I mean, there more writers and storytellers have taken this concept and used it to great effect, but this is just just a classic coming of age tale.
Yeah. In the book, the walk itself kind of feels like you're watching it, almost the way it reads, I guess I should see it. It seems episodic, like almost more like it would be if you're going to turn it into something, it would almost be a TV show.
Right.
Walking towards this. So you get very quiet, intense, long stretches of nothing happening and just conversation that drifts in and out and fear as they get closer and closer to the body of what they're going to find. And the body, when they find it, it isn't this big dramatic thing. It's small, it's damaged, it's final. In the book, it's not that that's kind of the big, you would think Stephen King, this is going to be this big, horrible scene, this very horrific moment. But it's really not. It's kind of just confirmation that there's the body. We found it.
Right.
And King's Gordy, he kind of understands that even then, that this moment will define him, not because of bravery, but because it forces him to see the world without kind of myth and the mystery of like these things shouldn't happen to children. And the story ends kind of, we're pretty much wrapping it all up without going into too much detail of each section, because we'd be here for quite a while. This is a longer one. It is a novella, but it is a longer one than some of the things we've talked about in the past. But we're kind of left with not really closure, but distance between this time period, the ideology that time passes, friendships, then and Gordy's narration feels less like, in this, it feels less like a fondness over that time period, and everything else is more as like just an accounting of everything he went through, which is way different than the film itself, which we're going to get into next. Any thoughts on the book and how and I guess at the end we'll give both of these a Bachman score. But closing thoughts on the book.
I guess something that's always true of books is that inner monologue that you get, that just oftentimes just can't be achieved in film or television. At least not. I'm not saying it can't be, but it often isn't. That is so often not even just unique to King, but just often something that I value when I read a book is you get a lot of the understanding of a character, their motivations, and kind of their story from almost like you're inside of their head. And so that's something I appreciate about this book, where it's like the same story, you're getting the same story when you read it, but there's more meat on the bone, so to speak, I guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of this one for me, it's the extra meat it just doesn't feel as heavy.
It's
and
satisfying.
And the tonality of it is different.
For sure. Yeah.
Like
no, Reiner's Stand By Me, as we're going to be talking about here, is, I mean, it captures what was good about, what was great about the book and the story, but it gives something more. You're right in that, like his direction combined with those particular actors at that particular age is just, it's like lightning in a bottle. So.
Yeah. So going into the movie, Rob Reiner Stand By Me, kind of like as we've talked about, it tells the same tale, but it's more through like warmth and caring, rather than like a warning. To like the body almost leans like a warning. If you read this when you were like 12, you'd be like, "Oh man." Whereas the movie, the structure is a lot tighter, the pacing smoother, the tone is openly affectionate of this time period of their lives in their relationship together. We're still following the same four boys, the same exact tracks to get to where they're going, the same destination. But the movie, the way I feel about the movie is it lets us live within that friendship as a viewer much longer than the book. Live in the time that he's writing about. There's more laughter, there's more shared stories between each of the kids, and there's more room to believe that this time, even if it won't last, even if it goes away, it matters. It matters a lot for all of these various reasons. And I think that's, to me, some of the biggest difference between the two, as we've kind of talked about. And then obviously Rob Reiner brilliant, and rest in peace. And that's kind of what made us want to do this recently. He leaned into the performance of the kid actors in a way that I think is what makes this thing withstand time so well. Like River Phoenix gives Chris a vulnerability that makes the fate that you know he's going to fall into if you've read the book feel tragic rather than kind of inevitable. Will Wheaton's Gordy is very gentle. He's more visibly wounded than he feels in the book, but that's more because he's in the book he's taking on way more, even though he's a narrator as well in the film. The way he's narrating in the book is a way different tone, for sure.
Right? Isn't it the adult Gordy is Richard Dreyfuss in the film?
Right. Yes. And the boys in general feel I mean, they feel like the actual kids instead of just memories of what happened, right? Because you're getting the actual performances and getting to see that. And while the movie acknowledges the future with little title cards at the end telling us where they all end up, it doesn't interrupt the story in the way the book does during this journey.
Right. I like the way that the movie, well, not only the acting and that camaraderie that you really feel, that friendship, it feels real in such a tangible way. Like it, if you've really, it transcends era, even though it is very much a movie of, about the 1950s, being a kid in that time. It takes me back to being a kid in that time, in my own time, so that I feel like probably most people could relate to that. It's not unique to just folks that are of the same ages as King or Reiner, for that matter.
And I would agree with that 100%. I think in the chat as I was watching it, I also sent the scene from Boys in the Hood where it's like, y'all want to see a dead body, and it's them walking down the railroad tracks across and showing the dead body, and then there's a scene where Ricky gets his football taken, and they give Ricky his football back. But from that point on, they're like almost adults. It flashes forward. And then you get everything that happens in Boys in the Hood. It's kind of a different retelling of a very similar story in a different time period. So you could almost put these two back to back and watch them and get two very different stories about two different time periods and two different classes and races of people, and it still have kind of the similar vibe of like not having what you did when you were young, which is what you thought of.
There's that magic that these types of stories kind of remind you about what it's like to be young and remember, everything you don't understand about the world, like you've kind of gotten at already, and how knowledge, kind of takes away, it takes away the mystery of things. When you're a kid, anything seems possible. And then as you get older, you kind of lose that as you start to understand the way things are. So
as the children, they reach the body, that scene kind of remains restrained, but it doesn't change like the gravity of it. There's no musical cues, there's no big spectacle in the reveal, but the emotional center of the story, I can kind of in the book, or in the movie, I should say, it shifts slightly. Where King's version feels like a reflection, Reiner's feels like a remembrance to the end of their journey. And I think that's one of the bigger differences. But that kind of gets us through the movie. Anything else you want to say about the movie before we dive into some of the differences?
I guess one thing, just having rewatched it just in the last week, is just how good the cinematography is. And I know that it's probably been remastered in the last 40 years, but man, that it just looks good visually, and even today it feels fresh.
I think it's one that's going to be one of those that's just timeless in the way that it's shot and the acting. all around, right? Like it just still feels so good. Even the acting from some of the smaller characters, like the man who owns the junkyard, for instance, like all of that stuff just feels like you're watching it for the first time every time I watch it.
Kiefer Sutherland can't talk about this movie without at least mentioning him as well. He's just great in his role as he's not Ace, or is he Ace? I can't remember.
Oh man, that's a good question. He's part of the group kind of chasing down these kids. They're older high school for no reason.
But yeah, like he captures that. Like he does a great job of playing that sort of bully, bad boy. Which, I mean, he was kind of a bit typecast in that time period.
In the film, kind of goes into him being a little unhinged. You get the great street race scene where he almost kills himself and all of his friends. Very much which is funny because you get Kiefer Sutherland here, but you also get
John Cusack. Oh, I forgot about
John Cusack. He's
not part of that group. Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me pull up the rest. Like Corey Feldman, right? That's the other thing. So you're getting a return of Kiefer Sutherland here in Corey Feldman as a return back to that almost kind of the similar characters, except Kiefer's not he's not a you get the Lost Boys. I guess Stand By Me came out before the Lost Boys, which I would have thought wouldn't be the case, just because you go back and you watch the Lost Boys, and I love the Lost Boys, but it feels way more dated almost watching it than Stand By Me.
Right, and that's sort of what I'm getting at with like just the cinematography and how clean it looks just as a production. It's certainly just a testament to Reiner's, filmmaking and the people that he worked with. I mean, he made some unbelievably classic films, in his time.
So some of the notes I have on the difference, obviously, is the book is written by someone who already knows how it ends. It's told more as a recollection, whereas the movie is told as if the moment still matters, or they're doing so.
Like it's happening
for them.
Yeah.
Where, King's not really protecting you from the future. He's showing you how early the damage begins going down this route. Whereas Reiner is letting you believe, even if just for a moment longer, that the friendship might be enough to carry on through the rest of your life. The body, the childhood itself, it feels kind of doomed from the start, just based on the weight of everything he's telling you. Whereas in Stand By Me, it makes your childhood feel more precious because it's already starting to slip away as you become a teen. I went on in my notes, I put, neither version feels very dishonest. I think that they're just two different takes, looking at the situation from two different distances in the same, looking at the same wound from two different distances, where like King's version is kind of like, this is how the world will break you. Reiner's is more like, this is why it hurts when you lose those friendships.
Yeah. And I mean, you could certainly get that, from the book as well, that friendship and how important it was, that line is in the book as well. I don't think I'll ever have better friends than the ones I had at 12. However that goes exactly. That's from the book. But I think that, yeah, you're right. The effect that Reiner gets it's more nostalgic, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that goes into a lot of it's the same moment, a little bit of a different weight, but in both versions, the body itself is handled the same exact way. There's no big shock, there's no exaggeration, there's no big boo scary moment that pops out at you. The moment they see it in both versions, The boys don't scream, they don't run, they don't celebrate. They just it almost is like they just understand something that they didn't understand before, like the gravity, the death isn't abstract, and the world doesn't pause for kids as far as death goes. It can come for any of us at any point in time, right? And that nothing is waiting to explain itself to you, which I think is, I'm glad that Reiner kept it the same way as the book, because that is one thing that I think if you change that at all, it almost becomes a different story altogether.
Yeah. No, but I definitely agree with you in that it's definitely two different artists. Obviously King wrote the story, but Reiner looking at the story for, like you said, from a different distance, different angle, whatever analogy you want to use there, but that give it a different feel, and certainly explore those themes in a fresh way. So
I lost you there for a second.
Did I break up? Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Just talking about the movie and the book and how, like you've already said, it's, Reiner just like chose a different angle to tell the story from, which it's the same story, but like you're saying, it's a warmer, instead of a recollection, just a warmer sort of like you're in it with the boys, as they're not necessarily becoming men, but they're coming of age.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great way to put it. Both versions are a coming of age story, just told from two different points of view. Together they kind of form something where similar books go, which is it's a story at the end of the day that understands growing up isn't about becoming strong. It's about becoming aware of what the world can do to you and how good or brutal that can be with friendships, or what you see in the body itself. And once you see something like that, there's no real turning back. That it is the sense of your childhood innocence that's lost. That coming of age isn't always what you want it to be, right? When you're of age, it almost has like a positive thing attached to it, which is not always the case.
It's like to use another cliche, it's like the turning of a page, or it's like a new chapter begins, in the story of your life. When these things happen, obviously in most people's real lives, they're maybe not as story driven, let's say. Mm-hmm. But you certainly they happen before you know it, and it's this story just really, it bottles that up really well. It captures what it means to be a kid, and then what it means to sort of move beyond that, I guess emotionally, mentally, and move on to that next part of your life.
And that wraps up everything I have to say about the book and the film. Chris, did you have any closing thoughts and maybe your Bachman scores of both the book and the movie itself?
Yeah, I guess this one definitely scores really high for me. And I guess I'm going to, again, do that combination, but the movie, what I love about the book is, you're right, it's probably better captured in the movie, which is rare. And so I'm just going to put the two together, and I'm going to give this a 10. And this is a 10. So
yeah, I think for me, the Reiner score brings it up high, especially after just rewatching it and remembering how, just brilliant the movie is. And gosh, I didn't have it number one on my list of best Stephen King films, so it's kind of hard to give it a 10. So I'm going to give it a 9.65 as a combined score. That way,
fair enough.
A little bit of room, a little bit of ceiling left as we hit some of these other, because we haven't talked about the Green Mile yet, for instance.
You're right.
It's great. It's brilliant. And even if you don't really feel like this would be the novella you would want to check out, I would still highly recommend if you've never seen Stand By Me. I think it's one to watch within reason with I don't know, any of your young kids out there, really. I think like say could look at a tween or a teen. You can sit down and enjoy this as a family. I think it still holds up. It's a brilliant movie.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's surprisingly short. It's an hour and a half, so it's a perfect length of time, sit down with some dinner and just watch the film. It goes by so fast.
You get some funny moments, you get some sad moments, you get a good bit of action, and you get a great coming of age story. And I mean, it's brilliant. Like, so before we get out of here, do you want to give everybody your socials, Chris?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Christopher Clawson, and on Instagram, Chris_Clawson 1982. And so
for me, it's a Christopher.R.Patton on Facebook and Christopher.R.Patton on Instagram, which are pretty much the only two I'm checking these days. But look at Boink Studios on YouTube, www.boinkstudios.com. And you can find all of our shows either on Spotify or through www.boinkstudios.com. Also available out there in both video format and audio format on YouTube. And that takes us into closing monologue here. Let me clear my throat a little bit. Don't want to disappoint people out there listening. Here's the thing no one tells you when you're young. Growing up doesn't happen when you leave home. It happens when you realize nothing is waiting to explain itself to you. When you understand that friendship isn't permanent, it's conditional on time, proximity, and luck. The boys in the body don't lose their innocence because they see death. They lose it because they recognize it. They see what the world is capable of and what it isn't interested in preventing. They don't become men that day. They become aware, and awareness is the thing you never get to put back. That's why this story lasts, because it doesn't scare you with monsters. It scares you with truth, the kind you carry quietly the rest of your life. Some stories don't want to entertain you. They want to mark you. This has been Bachman's Basement. And remember, once you've seen the body, you don't get to be 12 again.